Good morning. Welcome to today's spiritual reflection from Deborah's Tree. My name is Reverend Roslyn Taylor. Very blessed to be with you this morning. To start our time together, I've lit a candle. The light being a symbol for us, for the divine presence with us, through the truth and the wisdom that comes to us into our minds, the enlightenment, and as well the warmth that can come from the little flame from the fire. May the divine be with you this day. Last time that I shared a spiritual reflection, it was on the subject of praying the name of the divine. And I want to continue on in a series about prayer because prayer, I think, is a very foundational spiritual practice in many faith traditions and in Christianity and in Swedenborgian Christianity. I know for me very personally, it's having that time to converse with the divine, whether it's a formal prayer or just a arrow prayer in the moment, is very important for my relationship with the divine. And so in the Gospels, the story is told of how the disciples asked Jesus how to pray, and he gave them the words that have become known as the Our Father or as the Lord's Prayer, various names for it. In English-speaking countries around the world, we tend to say it in a version from the 1600s, a translation of the Bible that was sort of standardized throughout England at the time and then through English-speaking countries. And until more modern translations came out in the last 30 years, I think people were very much glued to that kind of traditional translation way of saying the Lord's Prayer. But there are many ways of praying it in English. Now, one of them came out about 20 years ago, maybe 30, from Neil Douglas Klotz, who is a rather world-famous spiritual leader. He was relying on the scholarship of people who had studied Aramaic extensively. And he published a book in which he outlined how Jesus would have said the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, the actual words that Jesus would have said based on some scripts and texts that are available. And then he went through and showed how each of those words that Jesus spoke, because it was in ancient Aramaic, there's a root meaning for each word. And that root has many meanings. That's a characteristic of the ancient languages like Hebrew and Aramaic, that each little letter, each little word, the basis of each word, the root, can have many meanings that are not intuitively connected to each other, but go back, way back into ancient times. And so when Jesus spoke in Aramaic, his readers could hear many meanings in the words because of the way that the language is constructed. We don't have that in English and most modern languages anymore. So Neil Douglas Klotz then went on to write several possible translations that were different from the ones that were in the King James Version and earlier versions of the English Bible. And so many of you, of course, have quite possibly read them or heard of them or have been hearing more modern translations of the Lord's Prayer, where you worship or the Bibles that you read. But I just wanted to share today probably the most popular of the translations or versions that Neil Douglas Klotz wrote. So I invite you to relax, open up your mind. As you hear these words, just feel their impact on you and maybe take away from this any kind of meaning that comes to you for today or for this week or for the rest of your life, any kind of enlightenment that might come from this version of the Lord's Prayer. O Bertha, Father, Mother of the Cosmos, focus your light within us. Make it useful. Create your reign of unity now. Your will then acts with ours, as in all light, so in all forms. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us, as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Don't let surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back. From you is born all ruling will, the power and the life to do, the song that beautifies all, from ages to age it renews. Truly, power to these statements, may they be the ground from which all my actions grow. Amen. And now as you take in that translation, as you take in those words, feel again how they've struck you today. And my prayer for you today is that they may be a blessing to you and that they may open you up to new insights, a new depth in your relationship with the divine.